Addressing digital addiction in tweens with batch flower therapy has been something which I think every 4 out of 5 parents have brought this issue to me. As a therapist, as a practitioner, I have been grappling with it, and I decided to launch this only after I found some kind of a strategy by which we can help these otherwise innocent and not very uh, clever souls. Otherwise, they wouldn't have fallen uh, prey to such uh, kind of a habit. And so that is what this entire webinar is based on. But before that, let me share with you this is interesting today while I'm talking about children and their addiction to social devices. I remember in my childhood, I am a musician. I was very fond of music. And by the way, I'm talking about 50, 60 years back. Many of you were not born. Look at the smile on Stacey's face. And I used to be glued. Those days we used to have radio sets. I used to be glued to the radio almost throughout the day. Even when I would be studying, music has to be on. And then my mother became very concerned and she also became a little tough. My father was not so tough. He was a little lenient because he was also a music lover. And I was told that there are only restricted hours in which I can listen to music. So I was saddened, and for a little while, I think I missed the music. But the challenge came to me because perceptibly, in terms of my results in the class, it was not showing up in terms of what expectations were from my parents. And as my time was regimented with music, slowly, I improved. I don't think there was much of a damage there, except for the fact that I did lack in concentration. I did lack focus, and I would be missing my music more than anything else when it was not there. So, to an extent, that was also an addiction. But today, it is many times more vicious than what it was then. And I think it calls for action from our side. So let's see what else we can do about this. Now let's get an understanding of what the media has to say about the 3 billion global users of the social media. We are talking in the Indian scenario, and I'm sure outside of India it is no different, maybe more. So 40% of Indian parents admit their kids to be addicted to smartphone. Now, this is media survey. My experience is 80% have come. 5 parents and 4 out of them have come with this problem. 55% Indian parents reveal that their children between 9 and 13, can you imagine? They're barely, I would say, getting into their tweens. And of course, 13 to 17, the percentage is high. And that's where it is becoming a big concern. Can you imagine 150 times a day? It's not just teenagers, but we adults also. We are checking our smartphones nearly 150 times a day. Have you ever thought about it? And it's important that you also look at yourself because we are role models to children around us. You may not be a parent, or you may be a teacher, or you may be a neighborhood acquaintance to some children. They pick up behavior very fast. So just be on the watch. And now it has been declared as illness and behavioral disorder by WHO. So there is no escape from it. You can't wish it away anymore. I think it's time that we now catch the bull by its horn and do something about it. Okay. By the way, the rules of this webinar is that you can stop me anytime you want, though you have a Q&A session at the end. But if you have a question that's bubbling inside you, there is no reason why you should stop yourself, right? So please stop me whenever you feel that you would like to ask me something or you want to add something. Strangely enough, I think you would have also noticed that some children are more susceptible to falling prey to this newfangled addiction, newly born addiction. Some others are not so susceptible. So let's look at the anatomy. How does this happen from a behavioral, from an emotional, from a mental standpoint? So the first thing that we need to take note of is there are environmental factors which are responsible, which are creating a non-conducive atmosphere for these kids, because of which they are not happy, they are restless, they are looking for something else. And what is it? Inadequate emotional availability of parents. What is emotional availability? Would anyone like to chip in? Are parents not physically available? Maybe they are also not physically in some cases, but most importantly, inadequate emotional availability. Anyone would like to chip in over here?
Wherein they are not able to, the children are not able to open up and say whatever they are facing, or whatever emotional changes that they are going to, that they want to discuss or vent out, and get a moral support or advice.
Yeah. So what indirectly, Vijay, it means that emotional support or emotional availability is about connecting, is about engaging, not just making sure that their daily needs are met, as in the food, the shelter, the clothes, education, all of that. That is given. Every child believes that he or she is entitled to it. But what he or she is asking for is, are you emotionally available? Are you connecting with me? Are you engaging with me? Are you giving me the assurance to talk to you and share with you my pain, my discomfort?
It's like there's a disconnect, like
there is
there's not always the availability to truly listen at what's happening even underneath what seems to be presenting, and to validate the feelings and their needs, and to find out what they really need underneath.
I think it
requires presence.
Sorry, I interrupted, Teresa, but I think what you said, two words that you have said, I just folded hands. I'm saying that I'm happy that you joined. Listening, yes, one of the key elements of emotional availability. And the other word you use is presence. Is there presence? You may be present, but is there presence? Okay, then physical distancing and isolation from peers. So over a long time, for now, because of the pandemic, they have physically been distant and isolated from their peers. No matter how virtual we are, the energetic presence of another individual in our life is healing, is comforting, is giving us a sense of warmth and togetherness that they have been missing. They cannot describe. I have children at home and we keep talking, and I've asked them, so how is the class going on? Class is fine, no problem. They still go online, by the way. Next year, they will not be going online. And they say everything is fine, but somewhere we are missing out on that camaraderie, that buddiness that we used to enjoy when we used to go to school. And the third point is also very important, that it's all study, study, study. They hardly go out to play. If they play video games. Do you know? Today, people are full-time employed as poker players, chess players, and of course, there are other games also. Because that's given them an avenue to channelize their talent. But there are other talents also. Are we doing enough to help children recognize that, look, guys, this is your talent? And besides being hooked on to the digital device, why don't you spend some time in honing your talent? And talents have this beautiful quality of infecting you, because talents are something which is innate about you, something about your DNA. Once you start engaging with your talent, whatever your talent is, I'm talking about children, they slowly start feeling, wow, there is a wow in it. There is some payback from this engagement. And you will see that they will perhaps gently and incrementally reduce their time with social media. But, well, the fact of life is that these environmental factors are prevailing. Now, as a result of which, I'm sure most of you or all of you would have heard of Abraham Maslow's need hierarchy, where the basic need of basic physiological and psychological comfort and needs are the first rung. But the second and the third rung is the need for belonging and love. And the third rung is esteem. Esteem is what? Esteem is feeling valued, feeling appreciated, feeling worthy of being of this space. Now, why is it not happening? You go that level below in environmental factors, two reasons. Because of the emotional disconnect also, that appreciative nudge that would come from the parent, that nod that will come from the parent is also missing. As a matter of fact, I am not making a guess. I have reasons to believe, because of this addiction and because the parents are exasperated, they have become more critical than appreciative of the children, leading to a lack of self-esteem. And of course, belonging and love because of inadequate emotional availability and presence and listening of the parents. Now, as a result of this, there are two things that are happening. Essentially, there is one thing that is happening, like one of you said, that they are not in agreement with this reality. So they are running away, escaping into another reality. And there are two different types of escape that I have predominantly noticed. One is escaping into the world of fantasy. So they get into a dream world and that becomes a real world. When you see them in this world, you'll see them in a state of daze, as if they are, lifeless and walking like lifeless human beings. The other escape is when they escape in having fun with their friends, merrymaking, but that is just an escape. It is not genuine fun. They're escaping from the pain and the agony that they are holding in their heart. So please understand, this is very important. This layer is important. The need at this layer is to escape. Now imagine if this is the need, and at this point in time, the digital device comes into hand. The smartphone comes into hand. The tab comes into hand. The laptop becomes available. What will happen? The person will find that as a means of escape. Friends online, having fun online, and the escape into the world of fantasy in terms of animation, in other parallel universe, things. Terms like this have become household terms today, right? What does it mean? That the escape has been fulfilled. The need for escape in the child has been fulfilled, leading to predominantly these five issues: attention deficit, which is lack of focus and distraction. Many of them are suffering from anxiety. Quite a few of them are suffering from anxiety and or depression, sleep disorder, loss of memory, loss of appetite, and so on and so forth. But these are some of the primary symptoms. Irritability, extremely high, has gone up. So, my friend, this is the anatomy of the illness that we are talking about. If you have any questions, please ask me at this stage. No? Okay. Now, this is what is important. How do we get to see it? We get to see only what is there above the waterline, the symptoms. If only we knew what is happening below the waterline, we perhaps would be more compassionate to these lost souls. But today onwards, I'm sure this webinar will help you to empathize more with these young folks, that they are doing it because of some reason for which maybe partly or wholly we are also responsible as inhabitants of this planet. So a little bit of understanding, little empathy, and also appreciation in terms of telling them what could happen instead of telling them what's not happening. Anyway, so that's some advice, but I don't want to get into an advice mode. I would rather share more data and facts. So this is something Dr. Edward Bach has said again and again, and something that I love a lot. Illness is solely and purely corrective. It's neither vindictive nor cruel. So there's nothing vindictive or cruel about our children having gotten into this habit. It's a means adopted by our own souls to point out to our faults. It's a fault correction mechanism to prevent our making greater errors. It's a mechanism by which we can stop ourselves from getting into other addictions, for example, to hinder us from doing more harm and therefore doing more harm by getting into more serious addictions, and to bring us back to that path of truth and light from which we should have never strayed. This last line, pay attention, and to bring us back to that path of truth and light from which we should have never strayed, which is true not only of children but for us. Ever since we were born, from the time we were born, we have been attracted to and distracted from the path of truth and light, and we have strayed again and again. Sometimes we have been brought back and we have corrected our path. At other times, we have not paid heed and we have moved forward. You will notice whenever we have paid heed and corrected our path, we have moved towards a transformational shift. Why I'm putting this up is if you are noticing your child or somebody who you know in your neighborhood or your students going through this cruel malady, please assure the person and the guardian that this is a transformative juncture. This is a point from where the phoenix can rise from the smoke. This is a point from where the person can take off. So leverage it rather than feeling that, things are lost. Now, we are coming to how do we go about healing digital addiction with Bach essences. I can't say I've been 100% successful because it's work in progress, but yes, seen tremendous shifts, and parents have also come back saying that they have seen better results than what it was earlier. First, dissolve all guilt, shame, despair, despondency, disappointment, and anguish. When I come across, or I'm saying for other batch class therapists who are there, like I don't know the ones who are not my student, Vinod, Jaspal, Ankita, Teresa, Stacy was here, Babita. You might take a few hints from this. So the first thing that needs to go is this layer of guilt, shame, despair, despondency, disappointment, and anguish. Unless that goes away, we heal in layers. The subsequent layers cannot be healed. I'm giving you an idea of how rigorous it is and therefore how time consuming also it is. Thereafter, begin healing all fear and anxiety. Now, why I said begin? Because it takes time. My assessment of bringing anxiety under control of the client, whereby client can take care of themselves in their life and move out of the grip of the anxiety, 2.5 years, nothing less than that. So never believe in somebody who says that I'll give you something for a week and you'll be out of anxiety. Nothing in nature is like that, because if it has taken so many years for it to develop in you, technically it should take so many years for it to go. But thanks to Batch Flower acting as catalyst, it does not take so many years. Then we heal anger, resentment, irritation, intolerance, aggression, arising out of exaggerated sense of fairness. Now, you would have noticed, and take note of this, such children have a great need to establish that the world is unfair with them, including the elders, that they are not just, but because somewhere they believe we have not been heard, they have not been present, they have not been connected, they have not been engaged. So therefore, they don't know what is our reality. And it is not fair on their part to come and impose decisions on us. And that leads to anger, resentment, intolerance, aggression, all of that. The other is they want to have control over the situation. So that leads to another symptom, which I have not listed out, but I'm sure you will agree, a kind of disorganization or indiscipline. We call it disorganization, we call it indiscipline. But in their mind, that is organization, that is discipline, that is the way to control the situation, which to them is unreal, and thereby be what they believe is real, the world of fantasy, friend, and fun. Address tendencies like escaping, getting distracted, lack of self control. Now, this point number 4, this layer 4 is where we are now slowly and gradually bringing that person out of the habit state. 3 layers need to be cleaned and cleared before we come to this. And finally, you remember the unmet needs of belonging of appreciation, of being valued, of feeling accompanied, those are met. And that would have come from fear of abandonment, embarrassment, estrangement, fear of exposure, all of that. Those are healed. So at the fifth level, and this takes the maximum number of months, I would say, maximum amount of time. Once that comes to a certain level of control, we can say the person has not only healed but transformed. My friends, this is what I want to put in today's webinar together, and almost in every webinar, I'm talking about it. That healing with Bach flower is a blessing because it doesn't only heal. At the end of the healing process begins your transformational journey. Or maybe by then you would have already moved on the transformation journey and would have noticed tremendous amount of transformation in you. I mean, I have 100% testimonial from my clients and including myself. I've been my own client. Given 3 to 4 years, when I look back, I can't recognize myself. But I was on a healing journey. The intention was not to transform. But today, very consciously, I bring in people to help them with personal transformation using Bach flower therapy because it is painless. Otherwise, transformation is very painful. It's painless. It's absolutely safe without any side effects. Doesn't take much time, doesn't take much energy, and also does not take much money. Now, the cooperation that is expected of elders, maybe you, maybe your friend, maybe your colleagues, please talk to them. Walk the talk. The child will follow what you do, not what you say. And what hurts them most is, like you're looking at your phone like this and say, okay, now leave your phone and go to your study. What are you doing at this point in time? You're looking at your phone, right? Or your phone is on the dinner table and you are watching your phone like this and you're eating and telling the children, no devices at the dinner table. Can you imagine what is going to happen to the child? You make a fool of yourself and the child is hurt because of incongruency is a nicer word, a politically correct word for lying. Increase your emotional availability. More than the length of time, what is important is the quality of time. The conversation that you have. Is it coming from your heart? Is it coming from your presence? Or is it a templated conversation? So how was your day? What did you do in the day? And what did you achieve and what did you not achieve? These are all templated conversations. How do you feel about the day? How was your experience of the day? What were some of the high points and the low points of the day? How is it that I can help you? What support do you need, my child, my son, from me? How do you think you can support us? This engagement, two-way process, this is what the child is expecting. It is never too late to start this. When you focus on what works, what doesn't go away. So there is a very famous appreciative discovery or appreciative behavioral scientist or positive behavioral scientist or positive psychologist, David Cooper-Ryder. And this is a quote. I love his quotes. David Cooper-Ryder. You can browse him on Google. And it is so true. When you focus on what works, what doesn't go away. So can you focus on what's working? Focus and tell the child, this is what is working. Focus and tell the child, last time you may not have done very good in maths, but you did extremely well in English. How did you go about? What is it that made you so wonderfully achieving in English? We look at the maths later and you see the miraculous shift that involve, don't impose. Now, this is a little tricky because yes, you need to bring in discipline. So how do you do that? Do this, don't do that is one way of doing it. That is imposition. Why will the child listen? Instead, can you sit on the same table, not across but side by side? Across is an end on position for antagonism, and side by side is a broad on position where you don't antagonize. You become partners and collaborate and say, okay, so let's look at how we can chunk time during the day. What do you think would be the best time for you to study? When do you study best? I think I study best in the night, fair enough. So what would you like to do in the evening? Uh, Maybe I'll go out and play with my friends, or if I don't find friends, I'll play on my mobile. So why don't you do one thing? You know, I have bought this book for you and buy books for them. This is a book which we read when we were children and learned quite a few interesting facts about growing up. You see, this age is an age of growing up, and children are looking for facts and information on growing up. Give them such books, but authentic books, not cheap books. Things like that. When do you want to have dinner? When do you want to have breakfast? Waking time. Here you may want to give them options that you can wake up early and do a little bit of meditation if you want. Or if you don't like meditation, it's okay. Wake up early and two of us can go for a walk. How wonderful, right? Because waking up early is a big deal for these people. Their night times are when escape becomes easy. Waking up early, therefore, is a little difficult. Include, don't intrude. They value their space. Don't be suspicious. I've seen parents sneaking on their digital devices on their phones and looking at the hours that they have spent on the internet. Don't do that. They will know. They won't respect you. More importantly, they won't respect you because you didn't respect their space. These are five things you will not find anywhere because these are five things which are coming from my understanding of child psychology, youth psychology, and most importantly, how we adults tend to behave with children, tweens, and youth. Prevention is better than cure. Best thing is if it is not taken over already, maybe we can just follow this. And we can do it ourselves to become role models. Minimum 15 minutes between connections. Any two connections. Do without your mobile at key times of the day. Your food time, your conversation time. If you're watching television, that time. If you're reading a book, that time. Don't read books on Audible or, on phone, or don't switch on Audible. Switch off automatic notifications. They are a pest. Even if you want to move away, ding dong, and you would like to look at, oh, what's the new WhatsApp message that has come? See, my phone is also doing that. Put your mobile on silent and don't even use it as a watch or alarm or avoid temptation, to avoid temptation. Now, we have forgotten the old, the alarm clocks. Bring them back into practice. And the old chime will also be nostalgic for you. Set a minimum time each day for completely offline activities such as sports, reading, or listening to music. And we do it together at home, by the way. That's so much of fun. Evening time, we are doing it together along with a pet. We have a pet, and we all listen to music. And then we get into conversation. And the pet is sitting in the center. He likes to be the center of the attention. Cut down your number of social media friends. This is another thing that you need to do. Facebook, Instagram, FaceTime. I don't know what all social media platforms are there. Unless they are truly friends and you want to stay connected with them, just clean up, completely clean up. Now, I am too lazy. If one of you can volunteer to do it for me, I'd be very happy. I saw the other day and I was aghast that I have some 3,500 connections on Facebook and close to 5,000 on LinkedIn. I think only 10% or 20% of them would I actually know. They have grown over the years, but I'm lazy to sit down and, disconnect. But I wish I do that one of these days. Delete unnecessary apps and WhatsApp groups. WhatsApp is important. You need to stay connected, but WhatsApp groups, most of them are nuisance. Unless you are a part of that group where you are contributing or you are partaking of the contribution of that group, which is important.
What do you mean about the first one, minimum time of 15 minutes between connections?
So let's say I am right now connecting with you, right? Let's say I close the session at 8 o'clock India time. I will not start another connection on my laptop before 8:15. What I do is, after this webinar, I'll move out. I have work to do. It's not that I don't have work to do. For 10, 15 minutes, I'll just chill around. And just go around, talk to people, have some beverage, some tea, coffee or something, and then come back and sit for a while and check my mail. And again, after some time, I will switch that off and give a gap of 15 minutes before I come back, but I don't think I'll come back because it'll be night time. That is one. The other is same thing with the phone. If you're looking up Facebook and you are done with it, just keep your phone down, give it 15 minutes before you move into checking your WhatsApp, for example. Is that clear?
Yes, thank you very much.
My pleasure. So this is a slide which might be of interest to you, why Bach therapy, and I share this with almost all my clients and all friends who are interested and who come to me asking more about Bach therapy. I said, we'll talk about the details later, but I have not come across any modality where it is 100% safe and without any side effects. The reason being, there is no chemical, purely vibration. The other is no long coaching, consultation, or counseling required. Just take the remedies. The remedies are the healers. We individuals, we human beings don't get into the healing process. There is no contamination. The corollary of 2 is 3. So if there is no contamination, it means that even I am not a contaminant, because if I become the healer, I will come with my biases. I'll come with my perception. I'll come with my prejudice. But the pure vibrational essence of Bach flowers, they don't have any such bias or prejudice or perception. They heal in a very absolute sense. And because they are safe and side effect free, they can be sustained for a very long time. 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, why not for a lifetime? Point number 5, make Bachelor a way of life. You can. And therefore, proactively prevent illness rather than wait for the illness to come and heal it. So, this was all that I had to share. You may want to now field your questions while I switch the slides off. There is a form. I have shared the link to the form in the chat box. You may please fill up the form while we are here with the Q&A. And I'm sure you have a lot of questions. So I'm all there for you.
I have a question going back to when you discussed the layers to
Yeah.
heal. So say you're starting out with the first one of guilt, shame, despair, despondency. And anger comes up or something, and resentment. And so
Beautiful.
the third layer.
Yeah.
So do you still address, do you not address that?
In batch flower therapy, and because you're a therapist, so you're asking me this question, perhaps, we can give parallel composites. So comp 1 can address guilt, shame, dejection, disappointment, anguish, all of that. Comp 2, the second composite, can address anger, resentment, intolerance, irritation, aggression, all of that. And they can be parallelly administered, alternating 1 and 2. I have done that many a time. And that's a very real situation. Thanks for bringing it up.
Very good. Thank you.
Sir, I had a question.
Yeah.
Like we go to these doctors and they first make a medical report for our what kind of diseases we have and what we are attending to. So they write over there, okay, BP, this, blah, 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 whatever, thyroid or anything like that. Can't we have a system where...
No, we can't. Because the approach in medicine is reductionistic. The fundamental difference between our approach and medicine is that is reductionistic and this is holistic. In medicine, the disease is addressed. The illness is addressed. In batch flower practice, the whole individual is addressed. And you will miss out.
I was coming to that only.
Yeah. So
what I meant to ask,
you cannot, no matter how much, the moment you get into analysis, you are dissecting the individuality of the human being. But if instead of analysis, you appreciate, if you view an individual from an appreciative perspective, you'll get to see the whole being. Without seeing the whole being, you cannot heal with batch flowers. Very, very clear. It's like you are seeing a flower and somebody says, you see the color on the petal is yellow and orange and hues of orange, and see the stamen is having a green stem and yellow pollen on top, but the pistil is standing out as orange again. Now, what is that? I'm analyzing the flower. Somebody else will say, wow, this flower is so beautiful, it's so divine. Look at the creation. That's a very holistic way of looking at the flowers. You understand what I'm saying? And when we do diagnosis, one part of diagnosis, which is the first part of diagnosis, there's a structured method of diagnosis. Those who are my students have gone through that. The first part is what we call as thank you, Viji, thank you for attending, and please stay in touch. And fill up the form before you leave. Thank you. First part is what we call as sensing, where you don't take any data from the client, you just sense the presence of the client, which is the whole presence of the client by looking into the eyes of the client. You can do it even now if you want. Look, if you can just switch on your videos and look into each other's eyes, you'll suddenly see the deeper self, the whole self. Yeah? So that is the core and the crux of diagnosis, without which the next part of the diagnosis is anatomizing, is analysis. So in our diagnosis, there is a combination of analysis and appreciation both. And then we put it together to come out with the entire emotional landscape. So, I hope I answered your question.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I am addicted to my phone due to my work, especially the Outlook app. So where do I draw the line between checking for emails and between addiction and being a good employee?
Yeah. So there are two things that are working over here. One is the pressure of, if I don't see the email now and respond to it, I will not be seen as a good employee, right? And the other part is the habit of escape. It is also giving you, that is below the waterline. So now, regimen your time that I am going to, you remember that 15 minutes of gap between two connects. I will watch my mail, I will check my mail this time, and this time. For me, for example, between 8 and 9, I'll check my mail, and then I won't check my mail. Nothing. If there is a tearing hurry, people will send a WhatsApp to me. They know that. Set protocol. If there is a more tearing hurry, give me a call. And if there's a greater tearing hurry, land up at my home or wherever I am. Set protocol. Most importantly, the underlying thing is you need to have or bring back your sense of self to state what are your preferences, what is it that you would want to do, instead of assuming that if I don't do this, I will displease others. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. But that escape part has to be addressed through therapy, because now it has gone in. So it has to be side by side, behavioral as well as therapeutic. Yeah. Thank you for asking such questions. It makes me prod deeper inside my own self. Anybody else with questions? So if you don't have questions, if you go to the chat box, you will find there is a link to a form. This form filling up will help me to address similar themes in the coming webinar, because I will be addressing themes which are of your interest. So I don't want to just address themes which are of generic interest.
I don't see it in the chat.
I'll repeat. Maybe it is not showing the previous chat. There you go. Can you see it now?
Yes, it's there. Thank you very much.
And thank you for pointing this out. I'm still grappling with most of the apps and the devices. I'm an old timer, so it will take a little time for me to learn all this.
You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
You are.
So meanwhile, anyone has any question, you just copy the link somewhere, because I don't know. You may take a snapshot of it on your phone. Can you, does it allow? You can save the chat. I'll save the chat. So when I send you the recording, you'll get it. But I would suggest you take a snapshot. Yeah, there you go.
I don't have any questions, but I do want to thank you for doing this. I've been dealing with this problem with my son, so this will help me understand which approach to take with him. So I'm going to use him as my my test
and
subject.
Please feel free to seek my advice, consult with me, bounce off your, the decisions that you take in terms of therapy as well as behavioral also, because I'm also a psychotherapist. So there is currently one child that I'm feeling. She is being advised psychotherapeutically as well as through batch therapy, which is helping her.
Okay.
You're my student, so you're a part of my family. So please feel free to just approach me.
Okay.
Same with you, Ulrika, Jaspal, Vinod, Teresa, Deep. Thank you for joining, but please feel to chime me, WhatsApp, whatever. I'll just leave my email address also. You can write an email. Reach me and you can leave your immediate queries in the form itself.
I don't know what that part about options means. It says, what are some of the other topics related to holistic healing?
Yeah, so if you can write
it says
over
option
there, right?
1, option 2, option 3, option 4, option 5. I don't know.
Isn't it allowing you to write? It should allow you to write.
I'm not noticing that.
Oh, my bad.
No,
my bad. Just mail it to me.
Well, it's fine. I mean, you have the little check boxes below that we can check off. So
okay, fair enough.
That works. That
Okay.
works good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, any other help, any question, any points that you would like to make before I say good night from India and a great day to all of you who have joined us from the other side of the world. It's a good Saturday. I hope it's not so cold out here. It's a very pleasant weather.